drawing has been at the forefront of what I produce since I was a child. It's something I love, it's something I'm incredibly passionate about, it's something I do every single day. The act of drawing I use a lot of crosshatch in my work, so the kind of repetitive mark making is lovely. But I think the most enjoyable thing about drawing is the time I get to spend in my head, and the time I get to analyze the subjects that I'm drawing, and the time I get to capture their energy and to put that energy, you know, whether I've met them or whether I've listened to them or no matter what their story is. How I'd approach a project is sometimes it can be, you know, a short period. Now when I say a short period, it could be a 3-month project. The project that I'm working on at the minute, which is the Volunteers, is a project that's been ongoing for about 2.5 years. The theme of that project, or the idea of that project, came in about maybe early 2015. We were at the point where the 1916 commemoration year was fast approaching. There was a lot of creative output, and the whole country as an entity had turned to the creative world and said, okay, how do we mark such an event? And I wanted to mark it and to create something that was quite important around the 1916 Rising and why it happened. But I didn't want to just lift the icons that already existed. I want to approach it in a completely different way. And I found a really beautiful quote, and it was, "From time to time, a great wave of emotion and action sweeps through the life of a people, stirring it all, shallows and depth, such is volunteering." And that was said by Tom Kettle. And there was a number of social issues, kind of areas of social activism that I wanted to touch on. The first one being drug addiction, the second one being mental health difficulties or illnesses, and the third one then direct provision. And I wanted to create a conversation around these issues through the installation of a large-scale artwork. People's stories are intrinsic to the themes that I wish to explore, but also as an artist, it's my story. I generally, well, as a rule of thumb, I don't take on a theme or a project where I haven't had quite personal experience of. If I didn't find the theme turned on a switch in me or kind of lit that kind of, you know, kind of, what would you call it? Like, you know, the fuse that runs into a dynamite. If I didn't find that within the theme, it isn't sustainable. And oftentimes I will hit a theme or an idea and I'll think it's amazing, and 3 days later it'll fizzle out and it won't work. And that's important. That's, you know, that is the daily practice of what it is to be an artist. You know, you might come up with amazing ideas that you might have dreamt the night before, or you might kind of trawl through different things and you hit those. The road just ends. It's a dead cul-de-sac and you just reverse out and you hit the main road and off you go again. Like this project, the Volunteers, I've been working on for 2.5 years. The drawing time is weeks in comparison to the research time that has, you know, kind of taken place beforehand. Research would mean visiting galleries. Research would be physically finding objects. Research would mean trawling through kind of people that I find quite important or heroic or, you know, powerful in what they say. When I was starting up the drawing, I wanted to include lots of visual metaphors and lots of kind of objects, primary source objects, into the drawing itself. So I would have researched different objects that are in the National Collection, would have gone to exhibition openings and collected catalogues of artists that are also producing the work in the time and the same theme that I am kind of approaching and looking at. Contemporary artists, like if you look at Conor Harrington, his work is unbelievable. He's a painter, a cork painter and street artist. You know, kind of from being in the classroom, the very personal work that was created by Callow would, you know, is beautiful, like incredibly beautiful. It would be the scientific exploration done by Da Vinci, the mark making by Albert Dürer in his prints. Those would, you know, kind of quite heavily influence the work that I'm producing. part of my kind of sketchbook, or kind of part of my process, would be through photography. We took this set of photographs as a team. So here you see Cormac, and he's wearing the volunteers, officer's jacket, and then, you know, quite contemporary clothing, because I wanted to look at volunteers as in the military volunteers from then, but then, you know, the volunteers that get up every morning and go out every night that volunteer now, and what do they wear? And what is a volunteer uniform of now? It's a hoodie with a logo or a label that states what that organisation is. So I would have, you know, used the sketchbook quite heavily. I have a huge collection of sketchbooks that I would have dipped in and out of, and these are a collection of, you know, kind of images that I would have found, you know, through local papers, or imagery that I would have created myself, or bits that are cut out of, you know, kind of magazines, or I would have heavily looked at other advertisements and, you know, iconic images that I was looking at. And even my drawing style has changed vastly. Like, I look at this compared to this, and this just looks like I've drawn it with a spade. But that's all part of the process that, you know, you're kind of, even now I'm still learning and still experiencing and still, you know, kind of trying things out and overlapping. In terms of working towards the final drawing, or, you know, the installation that goes on the wall, there is a huge amount of refinement that has to take place. So I'd kind of, there'd be measurements, so going up to the building, taking measurements, you know, dealing with, if you're having the piece videoed, how you work through your budget. There's lots of different things, how you know, different meetings, different things you have to say to different people. So note taking is quite important, because I like to keep a deal of space in my head for creative thought to happen, and that doesn't work if I have to stick everything into it, like phone numbers or birthdays or any of that. So I don't remember any of that sort of stuff. So in this kind of notebook or sketchbook that I'd keep, there's numbers for ringing the cherry picker, or the scale of the building, how I'd break it down. I know exactly the format that I have to do. It took a good few years. It took maybe 2 or 3 years to refine down how to take the measurements, how to work the process, how to bring the print process, to bring the printer along to where, at the point that I'm at now. All of that took a huge amount of, essentially, refinement to get to, you know, to where I can just ring up now and say, this is what I want to do, you know, and it's done to my specification. So when I take the drawing from this scale to the larger scale, like, these are all my calculations and measurements. So no matter what drawing I'm ever faced with, I use the same process. The same numbers will bring me to that point. So my process over the last number of years, I'd often look back, and it'd be a fundamental part of my practice to look back. I look around at the room where I'm in, and I look at some of the drawings that I would have completed 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm at a completely different place now. I feel the work is not as, I wouldn't say juvenile, but not as, you know, there's more depth in it. I've grown. I've grown completely as an artist and as a person, and I feel quite capable of adding more content. And, you know, I don't just want to sit with one, you know, kind of output, and that remains it forevermore. That's, you know, there's no growth that's there. And then the great thing is that Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat can look back for you, so you can get nearly live commenting as you're putting it up on the wall, you know, kind of what people think about it. Some really positive, some can't stand it, but, you know, that's grand.